Hello everyone, I hope that you are doing well today. And in this video we are going to be making two different banana desserts. We're going to make one that's kind of a summer theme, and then the other one's going to be more of a fall theme. I kind of want to make two different desserts to where it's a transition from summer into fall. And so come along and we will get right into this. So we're going to be making two different desserts. We're going to be making a banana fritter it's got cocoa sugar dusting that's going to go with it. And then we're also going to be making cinnamon banana muffins and an icing to drizzle on top of that. And so for the first thing that we're going to make are the banana fritters. And so we're going to need a total of 4 bananas for all the recipes, and then we're going to need 2 for each recipe. So the first thing that we need is a bowl, and we're going to take 2 ripe bananas and we're going to mash them into here. I'm just going to be using a fork to mash the bananas. Okay, then after your banana is mashed, we're going to need 1 egg. And we're also going to need a 1/2 cup of milk. And then we're going to be whisking all of this together until it is smooth. So we're going to be getting another bowl out for the dry ingredients, and then you can just set your other bowl aside. And so what we're going to need is 1 cup of flour, then we're going to be adding 2 tablespoons of sugar. You can either choose white sugar or brown sugar for this recipe. One teaspoon of baking powder. And a 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. And then we will be whisking all of this together. So we're going to be soon mixing these together, and in the meantime I have this skillet warming up on about like medium heat. And so we're going to be mixing these ingredients together. I'm just going to dump the dry right into the wet. There's really no certain way to do it. You can just do it however you want. And then we're going to be mixing this together until it creates a thick batter. Okay, so we are going to be making the dustin, the sugar cocoa dustin for the fritters really quick before we start cooking them. And so we are first going to be getting 2 tablespoons of sugar. I'm just going to be getting a jar with a lid on it and then shaking it up afterwards. We need 1 teaspoon of cocoa powder. And then it says a pinch of cinnamon. And then I'm just going to give this a good mix. Okay, and then that is our sugar dustin. And so now we're going to go over to the skillet and get them going. So you want to get the skillet on, going around medium heat like how I said, and then you can either use butter or oil for the bottom of the pan. I'm just going to be using some butter. And when you go and place your fritters, they say to just get a spoonful at a time. And so I'm going to be using this bigger spoon that I use to mix everything with. And I'm just going to get 1 spoonful like this. And just place it right on the pan. The recipe quotes as if you're making the tiny mini pancakes. And so that's the size that I'm going to keep them at. I'm going to put another one right here on the pan. And then they say to allow each side to cook around 2 to 3 minutes, or until they are golden brown. Okay, and then once your fritters are done, you can just, you know what, I have an idea. While they're still in the pan, you could coat one side with the sugar. And then you can grab it and flip them on to your plate, and then just put more of that sugar on top. I think I put way too much on the other side, but it's okay. Okay, this is my last fritter. And then afterwards we will move on to the next dessert. Okay, so for this next dessert, we'll be making the cinnamon banana muffins, and then we'll be making an icing to go with it. The first thing that we need is a half cup of melted butter, and then we also need it to be cooled. So I'm going to be doing that first. Okay, so we have our butter ready, and we're just going to be letting it cool as we do some other things. And so, as in the other recipe, we're going to be needing 2 bananas that are mashed. And we're going to be needing 2 different bowls as well. And then next we're going to be adding 3/4 cup of brown sugar. Two eggs. We'll be adding 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Okay, and then as I still wait for the butter to cool down, I'm just going to be stirring this all together. Okay, so I'm still going to wait for the butter to cool down, and so we're going to be focusing on the dry ingredients. I'm going to have to get 1.5 cups of flour. And then it's calling for 1 teaspoon of baking powder. And then it's also calling for baking soda. I don't have that, and so it says that if you don't, you have to, if you're going to be using baking powder, you have to triple the amount that it already calls for. And so it calls for a half teaspoon of baking soda, so I'm going to be adding 3 half teaspoons of baking powder. One teaspoon of cinnamon, a pinch of nutmeg, and a pinch of salt. And then I'm going to just whisk all of that together. Okay, now my butter is cool, so I'm just going to be adding that into our wet mixture really quickly. Okay, and then we're going to be adding our dry into our wet here soon. Before we do, I'm going to preheat the oven to 350. And now we're going to be adding everything together. So I'm just going to go ahead and do the same thing as I did before. And when you mix this, you have to be careful not to overmix. So you just kind of want to gently stir everything together until it's all combined. So essentially you don't want to see the flour anymore. I almost kind of like to fold it. Okay, so once I don't see the flour anymore like that, then I'm going to consider this done and good. Okay, so now you just want to get your muffin tin and just either line it with your little papers, or if you don't have that, then you can just put some oil in here. Just kind of get it everywhere. Okay, now I'm going to be filling these up. And then we're going to put these in the oven for about 18 to 20 minutes. Okay, so while that is in the oven baking, we are going to be making the icing. And the only two ingredients you need to make the icing is some powdered sugar and some milk. I'm also going to be adding a pinch of cinnamon just to give it some flavor. And so I'm going to be putting everything into this container, and I have a lid over here that I'll be putting on afterwards because I may have extra left over. So we are going to need a half cup of powdered sugar, and then we're going to need about 1 to 2 tablespoons of milk, so either 1 or 2 tablespoons of milk. And that depends on how you want the consistency. I'm going to start off with 2. Or I mean 1, I'm sorry, I had a half. And then just a pinch of cinnamon. I'm gonna be getting a spoon. Okay, I definitely need more milk. May have gotten too much powdered sugar. Okay, so that's about 2 teaspoons right there. Yeah, so the more milk you add, the thinner the consistency will be. And then the less you add, the thicker it will be. This is kind of a weird container for me to mix it in because it doesn't have a flat bottom, but it's okay. I like this consistency. I don't want it too thin. So this is good. Okay, that's good. And then if you ever want to add more of the thickness, then just keep adding a little bit of powdered sugar and just keep going back and forth with however you want it to be with milk and powdered sugar. Okay, the muffins are done. Another good way to check them, other than the tops being golden brown, is to just stick a knife or a toothpick in there and make sure nothing is sticking. And so now I'm going to be moving the muffins over to the drying rack that I have set up. Okay, and once these have cooled off a bit, they just have to be slightly cooled. I'm going to be putting the icing on now. I'm just gonna use the spoon that I used to mix it with, and I'm just gonna sort of like drizzle some icing on top. And I will go ahead and do that for each one.